The day my life changed forever began like any other. I woke up to the sound of my alarm, the hum of city traffic outside my window, and the faint glow of dawn peeking through the curtains. My name is Sarah Collins, and at that moment, I thought I was just another ordinary person living an ordinary life. It was a Monday morning in late October, and the air carried a sharp chill that reminded me winter was near. I was running late for work, juggling a cup of coffee in one hand and my phone in the other, answering emails while trying not to spill my drink. I had become a master of multitasking, a skill that masked the chaos I felt inside. What I didn't know was that I was about to experience something that would shatter my understanding of life and purpose. As I stepped into the lobby of my office building, a sharp pain shot through my chest. At first, I dismissed it as stress, but then the pain intensified, radiating down my arm and stealing the breath from my lungs. I tried to call for help, but my voice barely came out. The world around me started to blur, and I felt my knees give way. The last thing I remember was the sound of distant voices shouting, "Call 911," before everything went dark. The transition was unlike anything I could have imagined. One moment, I was lying on the cold tile floor, and the next, I was surrounded by a warmth so profound that it seemed to wrap around every part of me. I opened my eyes to a realm that felt more real than anything I had ever experienced. The colors were vibrant, the air seemed alive, and every breath I took was filled with peace. Time didn't seem to exist here. It was as if I had stepped out of the constraints of the physical world and into eternity. Before I could process what was happening, I felt a presence. A powerful, loving presence that seemed to radiate from everywhere and nowhere at once. Then I heard a voice. "Sarah, do not be afraid." The voice was gentle yet filled with authority, and in that instant, I knew it was Jesus. His words carried a weight that resonated deep within me, as if my soul had been waiting to hear them my entire life. "Why am I here?" I managed to ask, though I wasn't sure if I had spoken aloud or if the question had simply formed in my mind. Jesus replied, "I have brought you here to show you the purpose of your life and the plans I have for you." As Jesus spoke, the scene around me began to shift. I found myself standing in what appeared to be an endless expanse, with threads of light stretching in every direction. "This is the tapestry of your life," Jesus explained. "Every thread represents a moment, a choice, or an event that has shaped who you are." I stared in awe at the intricate design. Some threads were golden and radiant, glowing with a brilliance that took my breath away. Others were darker, tangled, and frayed. "What do the golden threads represent?" I asked. "They represent moments when you walked in alignment with your purpose," Jesus said. "Times when you showed love, faith, and obedience, even when you didn't realize it. These threads shine because they reflect my light through you." Then he pointed to the darker threads. "These represent times of pain, doubt, and fear, moments when you felt lost or far from me. But even these are part of the design. I use all things, even the broken pieces, to create something beautiful." As I looked closer, I began to recognize scenes from my life woven into the tapestry. I saw myself as a child, comforting a friend who had just lost a parent. That thread glowed gold, and I could feel the love and hope that simple act had brought to someone in their darkest moment. Then I saw a scene from my teenage years when I had lashed out in anger at my mother during an argument. That thread was dark and jagged, but Jesus placed his hand over it, and the thread began to soften and glow. "I redeem everything," he said. "Even your mistakes, when surrendered to me, can become part of a greater purpose." Tears filled my eyes as I realized how intricately connected every moment of my life was. How even the smallest actions and decisions had ripple effects far beyond what I could see. Jesus continued, Your purpose is not defined by a single moment or achievement. It is woven into every act of kindness, every prayer, every time you choose love over fear. Purpose is a journey, not a destination. I began to see other people's threads intersecting with mine: friends, family, colleagues, even strangers whose lives I had touched without knowing. Each connection created a new pattern, adding depth and beauty to the tapestry. "Do you see now?" Jesus asked. "Your life is not insignificant. Every thread matters. Every choice matters. You are part of something far greater than yourself." The weight of his words settled over me, filling me with a sense of peace and responsibility. I realized how often I had doubted my worth, how I had questioned whether my life truly mattered. But now, standing before this tapestry, I knew the truth. I was created with a purpose, and every moment of my life was part of a divine design. As I stood before the tapestry of my life, Jesus spoke again, his voice both tender and firm. "Sarah, now I will show you the moments that mattered most. These are the threads that shaped not only your life, but the lives of those around you." The scene shifted, and I was drawn into one particular thread, a memory from years ago. I saw myself at a park, sitting on a bench, deep in thought. A woman had approached me, her eyes filled with worry and tears streaming down her face. She was a stranger, but something in her expression had moved me to ask if she was okay. In the memory, I saw myself sitting with her for over an hour, simply listening as she poured out her struggles. She had felt alone and hopeless, but by the end of our conversation, her tears had turned to gratitude. I remembered this moment, but I had never considered it significant. Yet, as the vision unfolded, I saw the ripple effects of that small act of kindness. That woman went home and decided to reach out to her estranged sister. Their relationship was restored, and her family found healing. Her renewed hope led her to volunteer at a local shelter, where she eventually inspired dozens of others to find purpose in serving their community. Every moment of kindness, no matter how small, carries eternal weight, Jesus said. You may not see the full impact, but I do. This is why I call my children to love others unconditionally. The scene shifted again, and I was shown a moment I had forgotten entirely. It was a time when I had felt overwhelmed with my own problems and had ignored an opportunity to help a friend in need. The thread representing this moment was dim and frayed, and I felt a pang of regret. But Jesus placed his hand on my shoulder and said, "Do not be burdened by what you did not do. Instead, let this remind you of the power of every choice you make. I redeem even your missed opportunities and work all things for good." I watched as he gently wove a new thread into the tapestry, covering the frayed section with a golden strand. "Every moment is a chance to choose love, Sarah," he said. "Even when you fall short, my grace is sufficient to complete the work I have begun in you." These revelations left me in awe. I realized how often I had underestimated the importance of the small, everyday choices. The words I spoke, the acts of service I performed, even the times I simply listened. Each one carried a significance that I couldn't fully comprehend until now. As I marveled at the tapestry, Jesus turned to me with an expression of both love and urgency. "Sarah, now that you see the design of your life, I have a question for you. How will you live differently?" His words cut through me. I thought of all the times I had let fear, doubt, and distraction keep me from fully embracing my purpose. How often had I allowed busyness to crowd out the still, small voice calling me to love and serve? Jesus extended his hand, and suddenly I was standing on a busy street corner in the middle of the city. People rushed past me, their faces filled with worry and exhaustion. "These are my children," he said. "So many of them are searching for purpose, longing for connection, but they don't know where to find it." He pointed to a man sitting on a bench, hunched over with his head in his hands. That man feels invisible, but one word of kindness could remind him that he is seen and loved. Then he gestured to a young woman walking with a heavy bag of groceries. She is carrying more than just physical weight. A simple offer to help could lift her burden and open her heart to hope. As I looked around, I saw countless opportunities to bring light into the lives of others. Each one seemed small on the surface, but I understood now that these moments were the building blocks of purpose. Purpose isn't about grand gestures, Jesus said. It's about being faithful in the small things. When you choose love over indifference, faith over fear, and compassion over judgment, you align your life with my will. I felt a deep conviction settle in my heart. I had spent so much time searching for purpose in achievements and recognition, but now I understood that true purpose is found in living each day with intention, seeking to love and serve in every moment. Jesus then showed me a vision of my future, a life where I embraced this calling. I saw myself encouraging others, sharing hope, and creating connections that brought healing and joy. The threads of my tapestry grew brighter and more vibrant as I chose to walk in alignment with God's purpose. Before the vision ended, Jesus spoke one final time. Go back, Sarah. Live with purpose. Tell others what you have seen and remind them that their lives are part of a greater design. Every moment matters, and every choice has the power to reflect my love. With those words, I felt myself being drawn back to my physical body. The warmth of the spiritual realm faded, replaced by the sterile light of the hospital room. My heart was beating again, and I could hear the voices of doctors and nurses around me. As my eyes opened in the hospital room, the familiar world seemed strange and distant. The fluorescent lights overhead felt harsh after the radiant glow of the spiritual realm. Voices buzzed around me, doctors and nurses expressing shock at my recovery. "Sarah, you're awake," one of them said, their voice a mix of relief and disbelief. "We didn't think—" They trailed off, unable to put into words what they were witnessing. I had been clinically dead for over 12 minutes, and yet, here I was, alive, conscious, and entirely unharmed. The medical team called it a miracle, but I knew it was more than that. I had been given a gift, a second chance, and a mission. Lying there, I felt the weight of what I had seen, the tapestry of my life, the moments of purpose, the call to live intentionally. It all filled me with a sense of urgency. I couldn't go back to the way things were before. For the next few days, as I recovered, I noticed everything with new eyes. The small acts of kindness between the hospital staff, the gentle encouragement of a nurse, even the simple smiles exchanged between strangers in the hallways. All of it felt significant, like threads being woven into a tapestry much greater than I could see. I began to reflect on how I had lived before this experience. I had been so focused on my career, my to-do lists, and my worries that I had often missed the opportunities right in front of me. But now, I saw every moment as a chance to create something beautiful, to bring light into the world through love, kindness, and faith. When I returned home, I knew I couldn't keep what I had experienced to myself. The vision of the tapestry wasn't just for me. It was a message for everyone. I began to share my story with friends and family. At first, I was hesitant. How could I put into words something so profound? Would they even believe me? But as I spoke, I noticed something incredible. People didn't just listen, they connected. My story seemed to awaken something in them, a longing for purpose and a recognition that their lives, too, were part of a greater design. One of the first people I shared my story with was my younger brother, Alex. He had been struggling with feelings of inadequacy and frustration, convinced that his life didn't matter. As I told him about the tapestry and how every thread, even the broken ones, played a role in the larger picture, I saw tears well up in his eyes. "Do you really think my life could matter like that?" he asked, his voice trembling. "I don't just think it," I said. "I know it. You have no idea how many lives you've already touched, even in ways you can't see." From that moment, Alex began to see his life differently. He started volunteering at a local shelter, helping others rediscover their own sense of purpose. The ripple effects of my testimony didn't stop there. Each time I shared my story, I saw how it inspired others to reflect on their own lives. People began to approach me, sharing their struggles and doubts, and I encouraged them to look for the golden threads in their own stories. But the most significant change wasn't just in others, it was in me. I no longer measured my life by achievements or recognition. Instead, I focused on living with intention, seeking to align my choices with God's purpose. Each day I asked myself, who can I encourage today? What small act of love can I offer? How can I reflect the light of Jesus in this moment? These questions became my guide, helping me to stay focused on what truly mattered. Looking back on my experience, I realized that the most profound lesson I learned was this: life is not about grand gestures or extraordinary achievements. It's about the small, faithful acts of love that ripple through eternity. Every choice we make, every moment we live with purpose, becomes a thread in the tapestry of God's design. Even the broken and painful moments can be redeemed, woven into something beautiful when we surrender them to Him. To anyone watching this, I want to leave you with this message. Your life matters. Every moment, no matter how small, carries eternal significance. You don't have to have all the answers or know exactly what your purpose is. Just start by asking yourself, how can I love more deeply? Where can I serve with humility? What is one step I can take today to live intentionally? Purpose isn't something we find, it's something we live, one thread at a time. If this message has touched your heart, I encourage you to share it with someone who needs hope and encouragement. Leave a comment below about a moment in your life that has shaped you. Let's inspire each other to live with purpose and create a tapestry of light that shines for generations to come.